Why does Proverbs keep talking about sex? Because we probably need some wisdom when it comes to sex. Get wisdom. Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Mr. Brown here today. See, I said it again. I said hello really fast. Hello, everyone. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Mr. Brown here with day number 6 of our series, Get Wisdom. Again, I'm enjoying this series. Hopefully you are too. I'd love to hear back from you. Give me some feedback on our YouTube channel, on our podcast, wherever you listen to this or watch this. Give us some feedback. Love to hear from you. But as I begin, I asked the question, why does Proverbs keep talking about sex? Probably because we need wisdom when it comes to sex, relationships, all that. But particularly, as I look at my Bible, these headings in the Bible here are not, in the transcripts, but we kind of gave them headings so we can understand them better. Another warning against adultery, because it's so important. Because I think we want stuff, we see stuff, and it's so important. But the verse we're going to focus on today is chapter 6, verse number 27. It's a question. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Proverbs chapter 6, verse 27. But to get there, let's go back to verse 20. Start in verse 20, and I'm actually going to look at the commentary. Now, commentaries are not the Bible. Some of you have study Bibles. Some of you read commentaries. Commentaries is what somebody else might have thought about. As I read this, the Bible Knowledge Commentary, I like what they said here, so I'm going to read some of their stuff and give some of my insight as well. But starting at Proverbs chapter 6, verse 20. My son, keep your father's commandments and forsake not your mother's teachings. Bind them on your heart always. Tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. And when you awake, they will talk with you. For commandments is the lamp, and the light, teaching a light. And reproof and of discipline are the way of life. Verse 24. To preserve you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. Do not desire her beauty in your heart, and do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread, but a married woman hunts down a precious life. Our verse 27. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Let's go to verse 28 as well. Or can a man walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? I guess, gotta keep reading. Just so good. Verse 29. So is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. We'll stop there. Now, as I look at this commentary, I'm going to start looking at verse 25. He says, do not desire her beauty. Talking about the adulterous woman. Verse 24, to preserve you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. Do not desire her beauty in your heart, and do not let her capture you. Don't let her capture you with her eyelashes. Now, as I read this, I understand what he's saying there. Don't be enticed by this woman. Don't fall away. Just don't do that, right? But verse 26 kind of like, what? Verse 26, for the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread, but a married woman hunts down a precious life. I had no idea what that meant. So I looked at the commentary. Let me read what they said. Chapter 6, verse 26. Immorality is costly. A prostitute, it gives a bunch of verses there, can reduce a man's to utter poverty, having only a loaf of bread by spending money on her services. However, a wayward wife can prey on one's very life, that is, bringing him to ruin and death. So that's what they think it means. Verse 27 through 29, I kind of get. This is what they say. One cost of sexual unfaithfulness is stated in verse 26, and another in verse 27 to 35. Dire consequences are inevitable and severe, as it is impossible to hold fire in one's lap without burning his clothes, or to walk on coals without burning one's feet. So it is impossible to commit adultery with another man's wife without being harmed. Illicit sex is like playing with fire. Such a man will be punished, possibly by the woman's husband. I like this passage and thinking about sex, because sex is fire. I mean, I kind of look at it this way. I've taught a lot of sex education in public schools over the years, and basically we call it abstinence education. I think abstinence is the best choice, that you be abstinent until married, and faithfulness in marriage, that you do not have sex outside of marriage and you're faithful in that marriage. I believe that's the best choice. I believe that in my heart, not only from what the Bible says, but from my own experience, because I did not do that, and I see the consequences of that all the days of my life. But I think it's so important to talk about this issue, right? And I like this verse, even applying it to someone who may be single. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? I think the NIV reads a little differently. Or can a man walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? Now, in the context, he's talking about adultery. Because verse 29. So is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. Now, I think that applies there too. But I like this idea as a principle when it comes to sex in general. Even pornography, lust. Can you hold this fire close to you and not get burned by it? Are there long-term consequences by getting involved with sexual immorality, sex outside the confines of a marriage? The answer is yes. And can you play around with that stuff and not get burned? No. And like I talk to kids all the time about choices. You can choose to do that, but you can never choose the consequences. So I heard James McDonald say one time, you can always choose to sin, but you cannot choose the consequences. Or he said it this way, actually: if you choose to sin, you choose to suffer. That this is fire. It's fire. And I do think we need to teach young people, and even older people for that matter, how to have some self-control. Later on in Proverbs chapter 28, we're going to talk about a man without self-control is like a city left, broken into without walls, right? You got to have some self-control. I think it's important that we do talk about sex and the power that it has and the beauty that it holds, that it's a beautiful thing that God created for marriage, not before marriage and not extra marriage. It's for one. Now, as I say this, many of you may be in my situation where you failed. You either had sex before marriage, or you may have committed adultery, or your partner has. And listen, there's grace in all of that. And I'm not saying these things because I want you to feel bad. I'm not bringing this up, but the Proverbs bring it up because we need to get wisdom. Get wisdom. And I believe we can share our stories with younger people so they can understand the power of this, that this is a beautiful thing. But it's meant to be here, because you can't play around with this. You can't play around with sex and sexual morality, because you will get burned. It's kind of like having fire, just holding in your hand. You can get burned. Now, this may be a funny story to you. It's not. It wasn't funny back in the time it happened to me, but it has to do with fire. And my mom might not even know this story. But when we were younger, it was around, what was that called? 4th of July. And we had a lot of firecrackers. Some of my friends would play with firecrackers, and sometimes they take the gunpowder out of it and they make little things and blow it up. Well, I didn't want to mess with gunpowder, but I like burning stuff, right? Not like burning like houses and stuff like that, but, just playing with the lighter, right? So one day we had some now and later wrappers, candy wrappers basically, and they were had a wax cover to them, and so they would burn. They look really cool, right? So we just had them. We were in the front of the house playing, and my mom wasn't at home, but we were just right in front of the house playing on the sidewalk. And I lit it, and we were watching it, and next thing I know, I see this car coming down the street, and I thought it was my mom's. So I tried to step on it really quick, but I didn't have any shoes on. I had my socks on, and I stepped on it, and it was all out, and looked, and the car went by with my mom. Turned back around, my foot, the annihilator paper melted to the bottom of my foot, and I didn't feel it right away, but afterwards I felt it. And that car went by, I turned back around to go back to doing what it was doing. That bad baby was burning my sock, and I felt it. I'm just jumping around, right? And so I was playing with fire, and I got burnt. Sex is powerful. It is a fire, and it is meant to be in a place that's constructive, and that is marriage. So get some wisdom. If you're struggling with some of these thoughts, because everywhere we look, it's all over the place. And I believe pornography or even just watching some television shows can arouse up these desires. You got to turn some of that stuff off and just don't participate in it, because it's not the right time and not the right container. Because the question for our verse today is this: can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? The answer is no. So whether that applies to you when it comes to being a single person and messing around with the girl, listen, don't be going to a girlfriend house watching a movie without her parents at home. Y'all, the movie be watching y'all. If it means picking up your phone and looking at the wrong stuff on the phone, sometimes you got to get rid of that. You got to turn it off. Whether that means you are tempted to look at someone else's wife, as we talked about yesterday. Should you drink from somebody else's own? Drink from your own cistern, your own well, not somebody else's. Why? Because you cannot carry this fire. You cannot walk on coals and not get burned. Hopefully that's helpful for you and me to get wisdom. Let me read my verse one more time. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 27. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not get burned? The answer is no. So get wisdom.